Okay. New business, 350 River Street, which is the La Katrina Mexican restaurant.
So yes, don't know if you've got a chance to take a look, but the restaurant has been painted out front. None of the brick was touched or painted, but the outside or front was approved by Mark Fetter. Mark is thinking that going forward, because he's got a lot on his plate, been very busy, that he was interested in asking if we could form a committee that would be almost similar to my site plan review committee that goes before my planning commission. So if a project comes in, it would first go to the committee. The committee, I would like to have Mark Fetter, myself, one person from our commission, and possibly 2 or 3 business owners form this committee. When the plan comes in, I send over the email, they review it, they get back to me within 5 to 7 days, and then we go ahead and approve it. If it does not meet approval, if there's too many questions, then we bring it to the HDC. So something like the paint or a signage or something like that would go for almost like a pre-committee first. Once they review that, this number one helps somebody get things moving a little bit faster. For the certificate of appropriateness, that's what it would be approving. Otherwise, they have to wait a month until we have our meeting. So Mark had said, instead of everything just going through him and him signing off, if he does something in error, does something that he's not quite sure about, could we form this committee, do this? Kind of an idea is I do it right now with my directors right now before it goes to my planning commission for things. Is this something that I thought I would bring up? Also, I started to look through our bylaws. There's nothing in our bylaws about that. But the planning commission does have this in their bylaws. So I wanted to first talk with you and then talk to the attorney. But the PC's bylaws say committees. A commissioner chair of the commission may establish, and appoint, stand, or an ad hoc committee for special purposes or issues deemed necessary. And so we could take that language if that's something you would like, or do we just still continue to have Mark Fetter sign off on certain things like certificates of appropriateness? Or do you want it just to come directly here and then people have to wait a while? So it's something that needs to be kind of discussed.
I think Mark is requesting this.
Right, and is it a matter of he doesn't have enough time or he just doesn't want the ultimate responsibility?
Both.
Well, my only question would be, would he have time to serve on the committee?
Well, the committee is just going to be at an email at your leisure between 5 to 7 days to get it done. It wouldn't be somebody knocking on his door, waiting, making an appointment, seeing him, all of that.
There's a process in place then.
Yep, and it would kind of come through me first so we can set that. And I always have an open door on the second floor. People can bring those things in and then I would channel it out just like I would do for my site plan committee for planning commission. But it's something we wanted to discuss, so it's nothing that you need to decide tonight, but I'd like to start the discussion
I
about
don't see
it.
why we can't decide it today. Sounds like a good idea to me.
Yeah.
I agree.
What is the process to change the bylaws or to add that
I
to our
don't think we
bylaws?
need to from what you just read.
No, that was from the plan.
That's for the planning commission I read, but we do not have that in our bylaws, so it's just changing that, getting with Tim, the attorney.
Thing about,
No, it does not. I reviewed it with the clerk, with Heather, and there's nothing in there, so.
I would be in favor of it as long as you communicate with the city attorney.
Yes.
And then get us some language for the bylaws that we could look at the next meeting.
Yes, absolutely, yep.
Does
And
there
I'm-
have to be any public notice or hearing or anything like that to change our bylaws?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay.
No.
We'll need to find out what that process is too.
Yes, and that's the other thing. If we do get it in the bylaws, then I want to instill a process, just like we would for business registration, site plan review, any of that. So that way, when I do hand out the certificates of appropriateness paperwork, you know, it's not everybody just going straight to Mark. Now we're going to have a new process. I'm in-house. Here's the steps. I email it out and get together, so.
Try.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you gave us these books last month.
So I'm looking through this and I realize we don't have the bylaws, so I'm not sure what's actually in the bylaws
Sure,
right now.
absolutely. I'll get you a copy of that.
Basically, in the ordinance itself, basically, you know, the commission reviews and acts on only exterior features. It doesn't say how we do it here in the ordinance, so we wouldn't be changing anything there at all. It's just basically how we go about enacting business. So it seems perfectly appropriate to me that we could do something like that. And I'm sure if you spent some time talking to other historic district commissions in the state and, you know, possibly at the statewide preservation meeting, the conference that's coming up, I'm sure we would find out there's all sorts of different ways that different communities do that piece. And what you're describing makes perfect sense.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
Any more discussion about 350 River Street?
I think we need a motion.
Do we need a motion? I
think-
thought the motion was going to be at the next meeting.
Yes.
No, I think we need a motion to authorize you to go to the city attorney to come up with a,
Okay,
So moved.
I think she has that authority already to communicate with the city attorney on
I do.
behalf of the commission.
Yeah.
So I would feel more comfortable with, you know, just saying that, you know, we've said we're in agreement with the concept and then bring us
Let me trim my
the
mouth
finished
out.
product, then we would vote on it and implement it.
and vote on the language and
Yep.
everything. Yep, okay, in the process.
Are you okay with that?
yeah,
Okay. Very good. Moving on to old business, 390 River Street. We received just today an awning proposal and a paint proposal for the building. I would like to make a motion to postpone this to the next meeting so we have an opportunity to review it. It's a lot.
I think we have the owner here who wants to
Yes.
comment.
If you want to postpone it. Originally, I was supposed to have awning proposal to you within, I believe it was 60 days or 90 days of your approval to demo the old awning, but we ran into some problems, structural issues when we took the old awning down. It was a lot worse than we thought.
I'm, just for this proposal that you have before us, that we just got maybe a minute ago,
Oh, okay.
but I have a motion on the floor. Do I have any support for that? And then we can discuss it.
I support.
Discussion, please?
My only question would be waiting a month, would that be an insurmountable challenge for you?
I've got plenty of other things to do, but
Okay, that
the
would,
front of the building is decidedly unpleasant to look at right now.
well, yeah. I just want to make sure that it's something that isn't going to put you way behind on,
Oh, I have plenty of other things to do.
okay.
If you wanted to consider approving part of this without the awning, the part where we cover up the scarred brick and the I-beams with the LP beadboard, the pressure-treated beadboard siding that the awning will eventually go on, that would certainly make the building a little more pleasant to look at.
Personally, I'd like to look at it as a whole
Okay.
package.
I'd like to see a whole drawing, except exterior facade.
Correct.
Okay,
There's a lot
Maybe a
here.
section through the exterior facade as well, so we can see exactly what's going on.
Yeah, I think I would have to concur. I was prepared today to potentially, you know, review an awning. I'm not prepared today to review beadboard covering or paint on a brick facade. So I think probably having something a little more fully fleshed out would be better.
A drawing will define exactly what's happening and all expectations,
Yeah.
and we just don't have that with this.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Laura, will you take a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Humboldt,
Sorry.
the motion to postpone the review, okay. Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Trucks,
Yes.
Vice Chair Quinn,
Yes.
Commissioner Kriskowitz,
Yes.
Chair Kenny.
Yes. Thank you. 435 River Street.
Yes, so in your packet, you can see that I had sent Mr. Matheson a letter. He did stop in to my office, talked to me for a couple minutes, was in a disagreement. He said everything was finished and completed on his end. I asked him that if Jerry and I could take a look on the outside of the building along with the inside of the building, just so we could do both at the same time. He also submitted a sign permit application that he just turned in, which I wasn't comfortable giving that to you yet. I will in the next packet, but he did receive the letter and we need to get over there and take a look. I need to review the windows and some other things on the outside. So he's supposed to give us a call back to set that up, so I'm hopeful.
Do you need anything from the commission
Nope.
at this point? Just reporting on the
Yep, just
progress?
reporting.
Is that the sign that was originally requested when he did the certificate last year, or is this?
Nope, this is a little bit different, the sign is.
Got it.
Yep,
All right, thank you.
yep.
Any more discussion? Okay, move on to 457 River Street, which is the outsider. Hi.
Hi. So, yeah, we're planning on putting up some signs in our windows, on the inside of the windows. They're neon signs, just to get a little bit more advertising. We've been having some issues with just like it, there's just not much branding or anything kind of that faces River Street for us. So we thought this was kind of, it would help pull some people in that are like walking on the sidewalk and stuff like that. Fairly, I don't know, it's not a lot of stuff, but
And then what is your name that you're representing the outsider?
my name is Tyler Smets. I'm the general manager. I'm representing for John Faber.
All right, thank you. So in your packet is the signs there for you to look at.
Do we have any more details on the signs, you know, sizes or?
I would say like each sign is about like that big. Neon signs, they'd be turned off at night. They'd be on the inside of the window. I don't have the exact dimensions. I guess it's
It says
18 by
18 by 10?
Yeah.
Mhm. And when you say they'd be turned off at night, what, are there general hours, like at
Yeah, right
dark?
now
Because
our-
that varies.
It would be when we close around, on the weekends it's 9. Other nights during the week it's 8. We might extend those hours during the summer as business grows, but right now we close at 9.
So they'd only be on during business hours, basically?
Yeah.
The only other neon signs that we've ever approved are open signs. So this would be something different.
Yeah, and that's why he's coming before us with the request for the certificate, because it's more than what we generally allow. So Tyler, I used to have a business and I had a neon open sign. But I was in a building that you couldn't really tell was a bakery. So I also had a sign that said bakery, so that people could actually find us, because
Right.
it was not very simple. So I completely understand the difficulty. And all of your signage right now is on the side of
Right.
the building, which is
Right.
where your front door is, but it does make it hard to know what's there. Neon's fun. Neon's been around since the 1920s. It was probably the most popular kind of signage that people were putting in between like the 20s and the 60s even. Putting additional neon in seems perfectly fine to me. Putting in 5 additional signs on top of an open sign seems maybe like a few more than we really need. So I'm wondering, if you had to decide what the most important thing you were telling people was, I mean, and I'm not going to be the one to say, I think we should approve 3 signs, but not 5 signs.
I will.
But
I
I
think
think
we could
the
come in
idea of having maybe
hard line.
1 sign in each of those sets of
Okay.
windows, so that you've got 3 sets.
Yeah.
So that might make more sense.
Yeah, my personal opinion, I don't know that you would get a lot extra out of your takeout and delivery sign.
Yeah, that's probably the ones I would take out.
But I like the idea of the one with the hamburger, the beer, and the pinball.
Those are our main attractions.
Yeah, just to let people know what's behind the
Right.
door.
I got a question. Is the Manistee Senior Center sign still up?
Not,
It's not up?
That's
no,
a
so
stop.
right now, the only thing on that side of the building is just an open flag that we have.
Okay. What about doing something there? An outsider sign.
We have considered that. It's not in our current plan. This was kind of just like a quick and easy fix to get some signage on that side of the building. Yeah, we have talked about doing a larger sign down the road. Nothing, obviously we would go to you guys first, but.
So let me jump back to the why 3 might make more sense than 5, just because we also do have a certain preference for how much window space is clear versus how much has signage in it.
Okay.
And so I think if you keep it to 1 in each of those 3 sets, you stay well below us having to come back and go, well, there's
totally get it,
also a
yeah.
regulation about this other thing, so. But are you gonna make the motion for 3?
Go ahead if you want to.
I don't know if Catherine's ready to call it yet.
No, I'm not. Unless we have more discussion after the motion.
Well, go ahead, no,
So go ahead and make a motion if you'd like.
I would like to make a motion that we approve up to 3 additional signs in addition to the already approved open sign for the outsider location at 457 River Street.
I'd support that.
Any more discussion? I have something I'd like to discuss. I'm concerned that the signs don't, they're not within the guidelines for the historic district, so we're setting precedents. We have never allowed this kind of signs in the district in the past. And we do have a number of businesses who will then also want to put up these signs in their windows. So I think the commissioners need to definitely be aware of that. And also, I love the outsider. I love what they're doing there, but they're not in compliance with their patio, and I'm hesitant to approve a new permit until they get into compliance with the current permit that they have.
I
That's
do
fine.
know, if I can speak, I'm sorry.
Sure.
But we do have plans to finish the staining on the patio in the next few weeks. That's all I can say to that, but we plan to do it.
It's more
as a
than
team.
staining,
Okay,
so,
okay.
yeah.
Well, I don't really have an issue with the precedent. I think it would dress up the downtown to have some neon signs in certain windows. So I'm not worried about that. I do like your point about if they're not in compliance with with the permit previously issued, we should wrap that up before we do something else.
Thank you.
I don't have the previous permit in front of me, so the staining is the only part of that I know that we were behind on, so.
I think you could meet with staff and get a clarification on what needs to be done.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, I think the guidelines itself say that, businesses can have 1 open sign, and if they choose to do that in neon, that's fine. So it's not really the question of neon.
Only 2 colors.
Does it say only 2 colors? Okay, I didn't read that part. What would be variant here basically is the allowing more than 1, and we're allowing that because, and maybe I need to clarify my motion, because they have no other signage on their main facade, the front River Street facade, indicating what kind of a business they have right now. And this would be a way for them to convey that to potential customers.
They do have an overhang sign that says The Outsider, correct?
Yeah, it just,
Yes.
it's just it just says our business name. It's also not lit up, so
Yeah.
in the evening, it's a little hard to see.
So I think if we're concerned about precedent, I think that we maybe should say that this would be done on a case-by-case basis, taking into consideration, you know, the size of the windows, other signage on the building, et cetera.
And I think that's the way we usually deal with it anyhow.
Any more discussion?
I don't have any other than,
Laura, will you read the motion back?
Yeah, I wanna
And then
make
do a
sure.
roll call?
To approve up to 3 additional signs at the Outsider, because they have no other signage to, and then I kind of lost. So if you can repeat that to me.
I was gonna say, maybe we could make it a little easier and just say that we table this request for now until the other issue is resolved. And the only problem with tabling it, we have to table it to a date certain, so,
Or if we could postpone it for the next meeting, we could do that.
yeah, my understanding, if you table it, I don't know if you can just postpone it, but if you don't act on it, I think you gotta indicate when it's gonna be addressed again. So, I would just say that we would table this until the June or July meeting, unless the issue with the pre-approved permit is resolved sooner.
So I still have a motion on the floor and I have a second, and you're asking me for clarification of the language. So what you said up to that point where you went,
No other signage to,
I don't think we even need that in there, but up to 3 additional signs. And this should not be construed as a blanket policy change, but that signage requests will still be considered on a case-by-case basis. That's changed it a little bit. Are you still okay with that, since you?
Oh, yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
And then it cannot be tabled, it needs to be postponed to the next meeting. It can also be reviewed and talked to tonight, but the proper procedure is postponed. So, no, I'm just,
That's fine, that's fine.
yep,
No
that's
problem
the
with
only
that.
thing I just wanted to let you know. So if you want to do that, just say that it was be postponed for the next meeting.
But we can't do that until we vote on the current
Right.
motion that's on the floor.
Yep.
Okay. So Laura, please do a roll call vote.
Commissioner Helmbolt,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Trucks,
Yes.
Vice Chair Quinn, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Vice Chair Quinn. Commissioner Kriskowitz,
No.
Chair Kenny.
No.
So it is 4 yeas, 2 nays. So the motion passes.
So the tabling it is mute then? Because we just voted on approving we just voted to approve the signs.
Okay.
Does everybody understand what they voted on?
Well, I want to go back, because I didn't catch that, but we had talked about it being contingent on,
There was no contingency
yeah,
in
I know
that
that,
motion.
I know
Yeah.
that. So how do we get out of our mess in case we want to vote differently?
I don't know. I've never had it happen.
I think possibly the motion could be amended, or a new motion brought
I
up.
think the motion could be amended after it's been passed.
Yeah.
I don't think people understood what they were voting on.
No, because I was just under the impression that that's the direction we were going. I
Yeah,
wasn't
that was-
listening close enough.
We could have an additional motion that canceled what we just passed.
Angie?
Have you made,
Yeah, I guess I'm not understanding there's a certificate of appropriateness for exterior furniture, and there's a certificate of appropriateness request for signage. The two are not the same. I think it's a bad policy to get into, we're not gonna approve this one until you come back and do this one. Because they were coming back to with oh, and now we also wanna do these things to the front, to the patio area, but you still haven't done those other things that you told us you were gonna do and we approved. I could see that being a reason to
Actually, they
table.
did them, but they didn't do them the way they said they were going to do them. So they did them, and they didn't do what we approved, or what the planning commission approved. This is not just before our commission, this is also before the planning
Right,
commission.
is that one still?
But what
on here
Angie is
in
saying
progress?
basically is that it's a bad precedent to have one motion that's contingent upon something else. Or one aspect of a project that's contingent, right?
Basically, yeah, I think we should treat each certificate of appropriateness application as its own.
And I can understand it, but I'm just disappointed too in the fact that they're back in front of us asking for something without following through on and completing the project based on the certificate of appropriateness. So if you can convey that to the owner.
Yeah,
that-
absolutely. I don't have it in front of me, I'm sorry. So
That-
I don't have the full details on that situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me ask a question, Teresa.
Mm-hmm.
Did the other job get signed off? Because it's not here on the current ones. Is it still officially in progress? The exterior?
Yes, the exterior, and we were gonna review that, so that might not be on there because
Okay.
either it's in progress or.
So let's make a point of including it on next month's agenda, because I think we really do need an update on that project.
Yeah, so it's not a completed, okay.
Right.
That's different.
Okay.
Yep.
I think that is the way that we handle it, sorry.
Then I'm comfortable with the way I voted, because I didn't know that it was not completed yet and signed off on. I'm comfortable with the way I voted.
Any more discussion? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
99 Pine Street, the historical marker.
If you want to stick around, I can talk to you afterwards, if you don't mind just waiting, yeah. It shouldn't be much longer.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lois Smith Owens. I'm an original resident of Manistee. July 17th, I was born July 17th, 1938 at 99 Pine Street. That's why I'm here. I'm not sure what information that you all want. I'm prepared to answer questions, or I can give you a brief history. What direction would you like me to go in?
I would like any and all information, because I haven't gotten any information on what this is.
Okay,
History would be good, would be nice.
yep,
I beg your pardon?
A brief history would be nice, please.
A brief history, thank you. Well, the quickest way to say it is that the name Manistee, which means many waters or spirit of the woods, was something that was very appealing to my father. Back in the 30s, many people from Manistee went to Thomasville, Georgia for their winter breaks. And my father was working in a restaurant as a dining room boy when he met the Canfields, Ramsdells, etc. And he was fascinated by their stories about Manistee. He was invited the next summer to be the chauffeur for Mr. Canfield at the country club and to drive one of his cars up here. My father also ended up spending the summer here and shining shoes and earning money to go back home. He was fascinated by this particular place and really felt that he could probably raise a family here. They are definitely a part of the Great Migration, if you all are familiar with the Great Migration of African Americans moving out of the southern states. And that was the primary reason I believe that my father thought this would be a good place for him, even though it meant he would be very isolated. He stayed for almost 7 months by himself, went back to Georgia, and convinced his young wife and their first born son to return, which they did. I think my father recognized the opportunity to make money in the ways that he knew how to make them as a, quote, colored boy. So he danced, he butlered, he drove, he did almost anything that was necessary to make money, and his benefactor was, of course, Dr. Homer Ramslow. And when my parents first returned, the three of them, they stayed at the Ramslows' home for about a year. My mother acted as their cook and cleaner, and my father was their butler, their yard man, and whatever other jobs he could pick up, as well as shining shoes on Friday nights down in front of the bank. They stayed here. I guess the best way to say it was, 10 children later, they were still here. We have been residents of Manistee, Michigan since 1931, and my parents were the first African Americans to purchase property in Manistee County. And my oldest brother, Homer, was the first, quote, pickaninny, unquote, to be born in Manistee County, so said the paper at that time. So our history is very deep. Our love for our home is extremely deep. Our love for Manistee is very deep on the one hand and full of wounds and bruises on the other hand. And you just certainly learn to balance them and live kind of a good life, because the memories here that your parents instilled in you are absolutely phenomenal. Raymond and Anna Mae Smith had very little education. My father never learned to read or write. My mother went perhaps to the 3rd or 4th grade. However, they sent 9 of their living children to college, and there isn't any one of us that has less than a master's degree. They were just very good about what they intended to do. And they did an excellent job of it. I'm standing here, 85 years of age, relatively good health, just retired from teaching at Grand Valley State, and looking at this as probably the biggest challenge of my life so far, since this historic marker situation came about in the strangest way. I have a niece. She's the daughter of my sister Ann, who is just younger than I, and she lives in Rwanda. She's been living there now for 7 or 8 years. She is a biracial child in that her father is African from the Cameroon. And while she was there making what she called big bucks, she decided to endow a chair at Eastern Michigan University, where her mother went to school, as a scholarship. I have no idea what she wrote to Eastern Michigan Historical Department, but I do know they contacted her with an interest in this house and in this story, and wanted to know what it was. And that's how this all began. In the beginning, and we thought it was just simply a small agreement with Eastern Michigan University, where they would come up and do archiving, and they'd devote a whole area and talk about the history of the Great Migration through this family. It is now something that is more than that. As you know, the Michigan State Historic Society is interested in us having a marker. And because we are working from Rwanda and California and then Michigan, it's a little bit of a Zoom call thing in the middle of the night for one of us and early in the day for others of us, and it's been kind of a lengthy process. We are arriving at the point where the marker is in process. We have a place for it to be kept prior to the land in front of the house being re-landscaped, trees cut down, etc., and the work that we plan to do on the outside and the inside of the house. The dilemma for all of us is that I'm the oldest living member of the family now. However, there are nieces and nephews who remember the best summers of their lives coming to be with Grandma and Grandpa. So of course, then they brought their children up here to be in Manistee for the summer as well. So there's a lot of difficulty in saying, well, should we just let it go? And at this point, I don't believe that very many in the family are ready to let it go. So our problem is that this marker will eventually show up here. It's going to cost a fairly good sum of money for us as a family, probably anywhere between $30,000 and $50,000 to take care of the landscaping, to do what needs to be done at the house, to put floodlights. It has to be a landscaped area with a little seat or a way for people to see the marker. The marker is ungodly. It's 7 feet tall and weighs as much as this whole counter with all of you in it, I'm sure. And nonetheless, we are moving forward with this. I'm not sure what role Manistee will have in it. Mark has been very, very helpful to my sister Ann over the years, And he's been sort of a family friend as well. And here we are. I came here because the name was on the meeting, and everyone else is unable, so it's always the oldest person in the family that gets to make the move. And I'm here to say, what is it that you would like us to share with you, and what is it that you need from us, and how can you assist us in this process? Because we just learned 2 weeks ago that there's a strong probability if the house were sold or the house were torn down, the minute that takes place, the marker would be removed. And so we're looking for ways around that. I do have one brother who's an attorney who is already looking into it. You yourself, Ms. Quinn, mentioned something to me when I came in the door. And there are other people who have had ideas. Preservation of legacy is one of them, according to a couple of lawyers. So here we are with 99 Pine Street being a historic marker. And if I could speak just from my own heart, Lois Smith Owens, they deserve it. Mom and Dad deserve it. You have no idea what it was like when they first arrived here. And you have no idea what it was like for us as children. But perseverance was always my mother's favorite word. And so, in spite of it all, and because of it as well, the struggles made it even more endearing to all of us. And it's hard to give it up. So we're in the process of trying to maintain it. I don't know what that means to Manistee. I don't even know whether people would look at it. I don't even know whether people would look at it and say why, or whether they would throw things at it or leave trash. I know none of those things, but we're willing to take that chance and come up with the necessary money and do what we need to do. That's the story. Any questions?
So many questions.
I mean, what authority do we have other than maybe a letter of support or anything else? I don't know. I'm unaware of what we can do to assist you.
We could annex it to the historic district, which would give them opportunities for grant funding. I believe that Angie probably has more knowledge about that. Is that correct, Angie?
Potentially. There's a, Lois, as I mentioned to you, I moved up here like 2.5 years ago. I'm from Indiana. So some of the specific historic preservation, like statewide regulations, I'm not completely up to date on yet. But generally, if we were to do an annexation of the historic district and include that parcel, it would mean that exterior changes would go through the review, much like Tyler's just had to deal with us approving some neon for him. But what happens on the inside of the house, how the property is used, none of those things are things that we worry about. It's basically, it's kind of like a zoning overlay where you can only do certain things that affect the exterior of the building. And those are basically, not that you can't do them, you just go through review first and figure out the best way so that we keep that overall look and feel of the district. That said, if a house has a local designation, it's possible that, and if you're already working with the state of Michigan, it's possible that you could get a state register listing, which should open you up to some of the state historic preservation funds.
I'm sorry, the state what?
State historic preservation funds.
Thank you. I thought that's
But
what you-
again, that's the part I don't know as much as I wish I did. I knew a lot more about what happened in Indiana. So but I would be happy. I'm actually going to a preservation conference next week in Kalamazoo, and I can find out more about what actually is available for individual property owners for historic structures or things that are potentially historic. Because even if it's not listed, there may still be some possibility of doing things. So I can find out more information about that. But I guess I don't know what we do about just the marker. The marker itself, because it's new, would not be a contributing part of an annexation. It wouldn't be a contributing structure just because of age. Usually it's things that are over 50 years old.
And I would think that putting in a monument or whatever you want to call it, marker, that's more of a planning or zoning issue. Yeah.
It's my understanding that SHPO has grants that are available for cultural, historical, and arts things, and that webinar, on the 23rd, I think, discusses that. Isn't that what that webinar's about?
I think, I don't remember. I
Yeah,
get invited to so
that-
many, but is that the one?
That's,
for it?
yeah,
You know, that may be something that could help the family. You're talking about a considerable amount of money to put.
We're not asking for money at all. That
Well-
would only be something if Manistee felt they wanted to do something of that nature. But we are not asking for money. We are simply letting you know that it's taking place. There may be some issues regarding that historic marker if the house does not remain there always. My understanding that since the state of Michigan has already designated that spot as a historic spot, and they're the ones who take care of the making of the marker and ship it, that's a done deal. So it was not,
Okay.
money, while it is very much needed in some ways, because none of us are, I think my baby brother must be 77. But we're all still trying to move around.
But once it's designated as a historic site,
Pardon?
once it's designated as a historic site, you may qualify for state grants to maintain the house and renovate the house
Have-
within the historic standards of that era.
Have you met with Teresa?
I have another sister who's been communicating with Teresa, but I hope that since I'm going to be here until Sunday, that I might have a chance to talk with her at
Seems
greater
like
length.
She could steer you on who to contact to get more information.
We have, Melanie Foundation has shown an interest in us, and a couple of other organizations as well. And it really, as I said, was not so much about the money, but as the positioning of the house. Because in the beginning is what we heard is that the entire area was going to be bought up, and I believe some of the property has been bought up, and that the quads with the trees growing inside will even be leaving. I say trees growing inside because no matter how big they are now, the great-great-grandchildren are coming. Whenever they go past, there are trees in there, they're growing inside, and we have to deal with all of them every year. We always refer to as the quads with the trees inside. And I understand all of that's going, and if that was the case, was Manistee 99 Pine Street just gonna be standing on that little corner by itself, and I get calls all the time asking if we wish to sell it. I think 5 years ago, someone offered us $30,000 for it. Last week, I was offered $185,000 for it. So obviously, something is happening in this area. I do not know what it is. So I guess one of you would have to tell me what's happening in this area.
there's a housing shortage.
Pardon?
There's a housing shortage.
There's a housing shortage, yes.
Big.
I don't know enough about how the city of Manistee works in terms of accepting a donation of land, what the rules might be regarding what's the minimum amount of land that could be accepted as a park.
Right?
I know of an 8-foot by 8-foot park in downtown Fort Wayne, Indiana. So I'm wondering if that is a
Yeah.
way, because I think ultimately what the state would want would be assurances that the marker can still tell that story no matter the future. There's lots of historic markers around the state for structures that are no longer there. So I don't think that in and of itself would necessarily make the structure go away, but I think if the loss of being able to have the structure, the marker there. But I don't know that, I'm just speculating.
Well, we have another Zoom meeting coming up where the California and the Rwanda side, who have been, they were the starters of this whole piece. They have done a lot of communicating. We have a landscape company already hired. We've had some trees taken down, and we are having 2 more trees taken down. They've told us what we have to do in order to have the yard landscaped appropriately, and where the marker could be. We've checked out the sewer lines and all of that sort of thing, also the electrical lines, to make sure that we are not interfering in any of the operations of Manistee. And I think for the most part, we have a fairly good idea of what direction we have to go in. I was not really aware of the fact that, because Ann has done most of the communicating as our lead businesswoman, I was not aware of the fact that this council did not have much information about 99 Pine Street. But there is, I could send to you, Teresa, a little history that shows pictures of them and tells a story about how they arrived here, what they did, what my father did, if that would help any of you. And it shows pictures of my eldest brother, who, by the way, died at the age of 16. He was a famous basketball player and football player and baseball player, but he had rheumatic fever. And so he left us at the age 16, but there are several pictures of him and of my parents, of some of my older siblings, and there's a history written in between each one of them. And it all takes place around Dr. Ramslow's home for the most part.
And Mark Fetter has been instrumental and knows the family and the history and all of that. And then when I have talked to her sister Betty, Betty's big concern I know is, so the house is there and it's on Pine, but what if the siblings all have passed? What are the children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren going to do with that structure? What if someone decides to sell it? What can they do to ensure that that house stays, the landscape is kept up, the marker has stayed there, so that rich history can be there? And so when I talked to Betty, the only thing that I had just heard from a little bit of from an attorney would be like a land conservatory, something about putting it in a purchase agreement or in with a deed or in with a will. But that's something that they will have to talk to an attorney about and figure that aspect of it. But another thing would be too is to get with Mark and to do, and I suggest making a whole video if you haven't. So you can have that video out there on YouTube or have it on our website that shows that the rich history, what went on, what's gonna be happening. And then whenever, like in September, when they do bring the marker up, we have like a ribbon cutting ceremony. We're there to support. I write a letter of support, whatever needs to be done, and those types of things.
It would be the situation where actually the governor's office makes the determination of the week, I believe, that it takes place in. Speakers do come. They tell us that we have to plan the program, including seats, refreshments, music, speakers, etc. And we're just getting that information from the foundation right now. So it's relatively new for us. The issue is, I guess, not whether we're going ahead with it, because apparently we are going ahead with it, but that Manistee is aware of that fact, that we are very cautious about it on the one hand, but really feel rightfully that we would like to honor our parents in this particular manner. And we'd like to know if it could stay around for a while, like at least 50 years. We'll all be gone by then. Well, maybe not. I have 6 great-grandchildren. I should not say that. We'll all be much older by then. So we would just like to know that the city is agreeable to having this marker. And as I said, it's 7 feet tall. There is one the exact same size over at the Guardian Angels Church. They're quite big, quite massive, and it has history. The story is written on both sides of the marker. 250 words.
I think it's a compelling story that certainly needs to be told and honored with a marker. If you want something from the city, unfortunately, I think you're going to have to go to the city council. Because unless I'm wrong, we have no authority to act.
It's not even in our jurisdiction.
Right.
Yeah. Although we could potentially do
An
an
annexation.
addition to the existing district, and that provides that exterior, review.
It sounds like there's a lot of wheels in motion already.
Right.
So I would suggest that you talk with Teresa and maybe get some additional contacts at the state. And then she brought up the idea of, your family getting an attorney and trying to carve out a section, but you'd have to weigh in on that lot size.
Right.
And all that stuff.
Right.
But I think it's a very, very nice story. And I applaud your family for wanting to recognize your parents.
Thank you. Thank you. It is a nice story. It's a very nice story. Is there anything else I can help anybody with or answer any questions? And I'll wait so I can make an appointment.
Yes, absolutely.
I have all the information I need.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Thank you.
sharing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Oh,
Some of us here knew your parents.
well, I thought perhaps some people knew my parents, but not a lot. Everyone,
Time passes, that's
time passes.
almost as old as you are,
Uh,
so.
Well, I'm not envying you. The retiring was the worst thing that ever happened to me. I haven't been right since, so. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to public comment concerning items not on the agenda. At this time, the chair will ask if there are any public comments. All comments and handouts from the speaker at the podium will go through the chair. Also, there will not be any interaction between the podium and the audience. If these rules cannot be followed, the chair can adjourn the meeting, a limit of 5 minutes to address Historical District Commission. Are there any public comments on items not on the agenda? Hearing none, we move on to correspondence. At this time, the chair will ask if any correspondence has been received to be read into the record. Anything?
None at this time.
Okay, wonderful. Moving on to reports. First on the agenda is the museum executive director, and unfortunately, Mark will not be here with us today. He had a family emergency to attend to, so we're going to move to the community development director, planning and zoning administrator's report.
So I wanted to let you know that May is the National Preservation Month. And with this, didn't have a whole lot of notice, but I'd like to talk about something for maybe next year, doing something for the National Preservation Month. I just want to read this right now off to you. It says, May is dedicated to National Preservation Month, also known as Historic Preservation Month. The month celebrates the nation's heritage through historical places. Organizations across the country promote a variety of activities on local, state, and national level. Whether you are interested in touring historical sites or helping to preserve the history in your backyard, there's always something for everyone. So what I did was I did a little bit of research, and I found some of these things we've done, some of these things we need to think about doing. So something I thought was interesting, we could always do a public display of preservation work. So I don't know if all of you know, on the second floor of this building in the City Hall, at the very end of the second floor is a nice display that is an example of what you would see at the museum. And it shows an era of a time, and that display gets changed. Another thing is, during the month of May, I could ask Kelly, who's in the city manager's office, that we do a special feature or something on our website to promote and to let everyone know. In the future, we could even do it at the end of the summer. We could hold a historic cemetery cleanup day. If all of us wanted to volunteer a couple hours and do that, we could do that. Also ask to present at vocational school or high school, and to give a small little presentation where we could go with Mark and give them a little bit of history. Great would be the 99 Pine Street, something along that line. Also be in there for that dedication. So those are some things that we need to look at for the future and look at for next year for May. So the next, for May, we have Downtown Business Connection Meeting. So in May, Catherine and myself are going to be going to the Downtown Business Connection meeting, so we want to invite all of you to attend. The meeting will be held Tuesday, May 21st, 2024 at 8:30 a.m., 8:30 in the morning at 400 River Street. That's at the West Shore Community College. And we're going to be giving some insight, talk about the preservation month of May, and also they were interested in some signage for downtown or anything else we'd like to discuss. So Catherine and I are going to get together and figure out what we're going to talk or speak about. All right, there's a couple other quick things I wanted to say. I know that it was asked if 431 River, if I would talk or put that on the agenda. 431 River, they had some signs in their windows, but I just want to let everybody know that they have moved out and the signs have been taken down. So I didn't feel that it needed to be on the agenda. So I did not place it on there.
Perfect,
Excuse
thank
me.
you.
Yep. And then lastly, I'd like to go over, there's the permit list in front of all of you. So I want to start doing this permit list every month. Now that I've got a little bit of time under my belt, I'm not so much a newbie. It's been, 6 months I've been here now. So I want to, if we could go over and review these and see and let me know, are they still in progress? I have not physically gone out to any of these. Some of these you might already know, hey, we know that that's completed, that's been done. But in the system, they still say in progress, or if I do need to go out to view them, then I need to do that. So if you want to look at the list, shout out to me which ones, or go through the list by date, let me know.
I think the first two were permits that were a result of applying for grants.
Okay,
And they're both expired. Neither one of them were ever started.
okay, all right.
I think
And I'm,
the bottom one, at 337 River Street, he's no longer there.
This is a brand new one. This was just done just a couple days ago.
Oh, okay, it's a different building, my
Yeah.
mistake, okay.
yep. I'm not sure what's going on with 141 Washington Street.
Okay,
I don't think they've done anything with that one either.
okay, so I'll go out to that one, okay.
I haven't checked on the Bluefish Kitchen and Bar's dumpster enclosure, but I think it's been completed.
Okay.
Yeah, the rest of these probably just need to be inspected.
Okay, sounds good. Now that I've got the list up to date, we've taken off which ones are closed.
Well, 325 River Street, I think, is finished.
Oh, yep, the tree
It's
lights.
expired.
Okay,
You would just put on there completed.
yeah, complete, and then I will drop it off of there, yep. But then I will also go in the system and do that. Okay,
And if it's not completed, I don't know if it's expired, would you put expired in there?
Yeah, expired might be-
expired,
Yeah,
yep.
that might make sense.
Any questions or comments about this for Teresa?
No, thank you for putting this together.
Yep, and then I'm gonna make sure that this, you'll get this we'll talk about this every month, it'll stay continuously on the agenda. Yep,
Yep.
yep.
Great. At this time, the chair will ask members of the Historic District Commission if they have any items they want to discuss.
No.
Anybody?
I'm going to the Historic Preservation, Statewide Preservation Commission Conference, May 9th and 10th. So I will be representing us.
Well, thank you.
And I'll be going on Friday. I'll be there.
Anything else?
Move to adjourn.
Sport.
Support.
Meeting's adjourned at 5:02.
Good job.
Thank you very much.
Zoom meeting.
I run off to.